Hi there, this is Nikki Rowland for Just Nick, and today I am designing a layout based on two cut files in the store, these pretty floral frames and this new bamboo background. I started off by only cutting the middle section of the bamboo background design, so I had that just in the middle of my white cardstock, and I cut out those two really pretty frames too. I want to back my bamboo background with this pretty polka dot paper, but it's not quite big enough, so I have got to figure out a way to cover up that bottom row. I'm using a piece of Pinkfresh paper here to cut apart to get the title. It's going to be called Dream Big and Impossible Things, and once that's cut, that will cover a big portion of that bottom line that isn't filled by that polka dot paper in the background. I know I'm going to be able to cover that last part with something, so I'm not too worried about that at the moment, and just concentrate on working out whether what photo I'm going to use and how I'm going to arrange those really pretty frames onto my layout, and what other bits and pieces that I'm going to use here too. Now that I've got some ideas, it's time to add foam pads to the back of my layout, and add that coloured piece of paper onto the background so that it shines through the bamboo background. For things like this, I really love to use foam pads. I like my layouts to have lots of dimension, and for the shadows to show up on the cut files so that it really looks great. So that's what I've done on this occasion as well. I know it's a bit time consuming, but I wouldn't have it any other way. So what I'm doing now is picking out some pattern papers from the same collection to see if I can backfill some of those really pretty florals that's on that frame with some of the same papers from the collection. So I've managed to find a section that's mostly pink, so that's going to go behind one flower, and have another little red section there. These flower frames are so beautiful, but it just didn't stand out how I wanted it to, so I felt that it needed some colour behind it. The blooms were a bit fiddly to backfill, but I did them as a whole rather than individual petals, and I used wet glue, definitely not foam pads on this occasion because there was just no chance. And what I'm doing now is I'm just backfilling the whole frame so that it has a bluish background rather than a hole. So yeah, and I'm just again adding that with wet glue too, and I'm popping some foam pads behind the flowers so that they stand out nicely. Okay, so now that I've prepared my frame, I can start putting my layout together. In the end, I decided to only use the one floral frame instead of the two that I had cut originally, so I have another one to use later on a different layout. And now I'm just going through and working out what I can add onto this layout. So I've got my photo and my frame positioned in place where I want them, and I can't quite figure out exactly where I want that title to sit at the top right. I wasn't quite sure if it would work there, but in the end I decided to go for it, and I'm quite happy with the finished result actually, so it's fine. I'm using lots of ephemera from the collection. It's a Pinkfresh studio collection called Dream On. I really love the ephemera packs because it means that the layout comes together so quickly and easily without too much effort or thinking. So I'm just playing around with the layout and adding lots of little bits and pieces here and there, tucking them under and raising some up on foam pads. And I'm just making sure that everything is stuck in place. I'm about to do some stitching, so I want everything stuck down and ready to go through my sewing machine in just a moment. Okay, so my stitching's now done. I've sewn through some of the big word, and I've also sewn around the edge of the layout. And now I'm just trimming my ends. I also added a few stitches so that I looked like my charm was dangling down from one of the flowers in the frame. So I've added that with the sewing machine, and then now I'm just adding my charm, and I've tied a little bow through it with some white thread as well, and making sure that's all in place here. So yeah, just trimming up my ends and sticking the ends on the background as well, and just finalising the layout really. Now I'm just adding the last embellishments onto my layout. I had quite a few other bits of embellishments from the collection left over. So I had the rubber charms, the puffy stickers, the mirrored stickers too. Yeah, I'm just seeing what I can add. I felt the layout needed a bit more colour, so I've gone for some yellow tones in there too. And of course, there's a bright pop of gold there because the layout can never have too much gold. It's my favourite. And finally, I'm just going to add a few flicks of watercolour paint. So I'm going for a pinky colour there, and just adding some flicks around the main areas of embellishment on the layout. I don't find a paintbrush that reliable for the areas that I flick, so therefore I just rubbed off some of the rogue flicks there that landed on my photo and my other embellishments. Okay, so that's my layout done. Thank you so much for watching today, and I'll be back later in the month. Thank you so much. That was Niki Rowland.